Well, welcome to the first of 2022's quarterly market update. I'm McHardy, local Brisbane real estate agent, and if you've got any questions at all, let me know. But I want to get through and explain what has been happening in the first quarter compared to the last quarter of last year. Now, obviously, as we all know, the market has been crazy. October and November of last year was absolutely insane, and I think looking at the stats, that was the peak of the market. Obviously, December and January is always a slower end of the time of the year, but it generally picks up in February and March, which we haven't actually seen. What we have seen though is a lower amount of buyers at open homes, lower amount of offers, and we're starting to see a little bit lower in the offers in the value come through as well. Now, at the moment, what we are still seeing is some homes are selling in that first to 2 weeks, but they are priced right and they're using the right marketing systems to do that. The properties that are lasting for a lot longer are owners that are kind of wanting to achieve a even higher than the suburb record price. And that's coming down to a couple of different things. First off, the owners obviously want the best result. We fully respect that and understand, but you've got to be very cautious in this market. We've recently seen a property listed first weekend, had an offer at $730,000, been on the market for 4 weeks. They wanted $750,000. They end up taking $680,000 because after 4 weeks, that was the best offer they had. So you've got to be very cautious about how long you're on the market for, what marketing and what agents are using. The other thing is that agents are not noticing that the market is changing, or they don't understand or don't care, and they're not telling owners that. So we've seen recently that there's been some valuations that owners have received from agents saying their property's worth in the 9s, when realistically all the other sales have been in maybe in the mid 8s, maybe high 8s on that one. So be very cautious when an agent is giving you such a high valuation. Ask them to show the actual recent sales and prove where they're getting that valuation from. Now, one of the other things that we've started to see, which we haven't seen since 2019, is second-time agents. Now, what I mean by that is that properties are listed with the first agent, not sold, and after 60, 90 days, a second agent is taking over from a different company and using different marketing, different pricing strategy, and generally getting a result. So that is showing that either the agent originally priced the property way too high, or the owner, obviously their price expectations were too high as well. So be very cautious. That is starting to happen as well. Now, what are some of the reasons behind the market change? Well, there's probably a lot going on in the world which we all know about. Interest rate hikes are going to go at some stage. We know it's going to happen. When? We just don't know. The cost of living has gone up in the last couple of months. Fuel prices have gone up, cost of food has gone up, and banks are now reevaluating people's pre-approvals. We recently had a client looking at an $800,000 property. They had their pre-approval pulled and they had it reassessed at $730,000. A $70,000 decrease on the value of the property they could buy. So some buyers can no longer afford some of the properties they were originally looking for. So one of the other big factors of why the market has changed so much in the last couple of months is the amount of homes coming to market. Now, every suburb is starting to see this. We're seeing it in Chermside West, we're seeing it in Morayfield, we're seeing it at Nunda, Zilmere, we've seen it in Aspley, and Brighton and Sandgate. And the reason why I finish off in those two suburbs is because I know the numbers really well in Brighton. Let's go back to November 2019. On average, we were seeing 30 to 35 open homes on a Saturday alone. That meant buyers had a lot of choice. Now, go back into the pandemic in the last 2 years, we would see on average 4 to 5 open homes, sometimes even less on those weekends. So buyers didn't have much of a choice. But in the past couple of weeks alone, there's been 10 listings just in Brighton listed in 1 week, and the week after that, there was another 7. So right now, there's about 13 open homes in that area. I know it doesn't sound like much, but when a buyer has nearly 3 times the amount of properties to look at compared to what they were originally looking at, they feel like they have time, and they really do, because there is a lot more choice for them. There's less buyers out, but more properties. It is starting to become a more even market. So as the market changes, what is selling? Well, every property is selling as long as you're marketing it and pricing it right. But one of the big changes we've seen in the last 3 months is units, townhouses and villas. Now, if you've been a unit or townhouse owner for a long time, there hasn't been much increase, unlike the houses. But what we've seen in the last couple of months is a huge difference. Now, to give you a bit of a sample, one of the properties in 39 Pitta Place sold about 3 or 4 months ago and sold for $391,000. This was an unrenovated 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom townhouse. We've just recently sold an unrenovated, exactly the same townhouse in the same complex for $565,000. The difference between that was a $1,450 per day increase since those two properties sold. Now, we were struggling back 6 months ago to get more than 10 people through an open home, but we had over 80 groups through on a townhouse property in that period of the week. Now, we received about 14 or 15 offers as well. It was absolutely insane. So the reason why that market has started moving is you can no longer buy a house in the area for $500,000, $550,000. Now, one of the areas that we all know of is Chermside. Chermside struggled for 10 years of their prices valuation going up. And all of a sudden, in the last couple of months, it has exploded again. We're now getting properties sold around that $450,000, where we're struggling to get them sold at $350,000. So a $100,000 increase in only a matter of months because all the buyers have shifted over to that area. Now, I shouldn't say all the buyers, because when it comes to houses, we're finding a lot more investors are coming back into the market now, as first home buyers have been priced out, and also second or third purchases. Now, with the investors, the reason why they're able to afford the properties right now is their own personal homes have grown so much in the past 2 years, they reevaluate or refinance, and they're able to use the equity to be able to buy another property. Now, as rents go up, it is very appetizing for a lot of investors to get into this market, which means that there's a bit more profit in for them and there's a high drive. So if you are looking at selling a home and you want to stay in the property, there is a high chance that we're able to negotiate a rent back system as well. So always something to keep in mind. Now, before we finish off, I want to give you one last case study of a property we've recently sold. 184 LaSalle Street in Brighton. Originally sold 2 years ago for $555,000, and we've just sold it for $872,000. That is a 36% increase in 2 years, with the owners not spending a dollar on the property. That is how crazy the houses have jumped in the past 2 years. And this is why we're starting to see a shift. So what do I think is going to happen for the rest of the year? Look, if I had a crystal ball, we would have all bought Bitcoin, wouldn't we? Realistically, we just don't know. We're at that shifting market now where I just think it's going to cool down, and this is now the sale prices. Do I see a drop in prices? Look, I don't see a major drop if there's going to be anything. Obviously, there'll be some kind of adjustment as rates go up and people can't afford certain properties. But with the amount of people still moving from interstate to Queensland, there's still a driving factor and still a driving amount of buyers still wanting to live in the area. So realistically, it's one of those things. We just have to play it out and see what happens over the next couple of months. But if you are interested in selling, definitely now is the time, because if it does shift, you want to make sure that you weren't at the bottom of the market and you're always at the top. So if you had a market update in the last 6 months to a year, please message me, because it will definitely be changed now and we'll be able to help you out. Now, to keep you up to date with what is going on in the real estate market, we'll be doing a Numbers Don't Lie video on Facebook every single Monday night. Now, that will be keeping you up to date of how many people have come through open homes, how many properties are being sold, and also what the kind of market trend is happening. So if you're really interested in knowing what is happening in real estate, make sure you're following my Facebook page to be able to get all that information.